Welcome back to another episode of the Nebulum Podcast. And remember, on this podcast, we explore ideas of fulfillment and creativity. And our goal is to inspire and inject more fulfillment into the world. So we'll explore, philosophy, but also practical advice. And, we'll just discuss different things.
Yeah, we will discuss different things. I would hope.
Yeah. Okay, so what are we talking about today?
Yeah, today, well, I was going about my day, I was going on I was riding my bike, and I thought about, the idea of not the idea, that I was basically looking where I was going to make sure I didn't die. And I had to really focus, because in mountain biking, you can't just dilly-dally or you're going to fall. So you have to be very aware of what's in front of you. And if you look down directly what you're going over, you're also going to fall. If you look back, you're going to fall. So, and the same concept goes for surfing. You know surfing. So yeah, I wanted to talk about this concept and bringing it into our daily lives as we move in the directions that we're moving. What to focus on, because I think a lot of people focus on the past and the present. But I guess I was thinking about how looking forward, not too far forward, but just looking at just what's in front of you can kind of give you that direction and allow you to move.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what do you think about this whole thing?
Yeah, I feel like this is an important topic because where you place your focus impacts your life in such profound ways, right? And yeah, I guess you're using the analogy of sports like biking and surfing and stuff, and in race car driving as well. I was watching a video, and they were talking about what you learn when you start to learn to race, and you're going at really high speeds, going around corners and stuff. At some points, you might crash, right? But we as humans, we have a tendency, when we see danger, we look at the danger. So the natural tendency for new racers is when they're about to crash into a wall, let's say, they're looking at that wall. But one of the biggest lessons they teach is don't look at the wall. Look at where you want to go in order to not crash, right? So it's important to recognize that we do have this tendency to kind of look at where we don't want to go and focus on where we don't want to go. And as a result, we're more likely to go in that direction. So it's important to, in these sports endeavors, look at where you want to go so that, we use our eyes as navigation mechanisms, right? When we are looking in a certain direction, our head is turned in a certain direction, our bodies and what we're doing also kind of divert to that direction. And so it's very important to control where you're putting your focus. And there's another saying that I've heard, I think this might be a Tony Robbins thing, that he says, where focus goes, energy flows. I find that to be extremely true. Whatever your mind is occupied with becomes who you are eventually. And who you are, shapes the life you lead. And so in that sense too, it's extremely important to control what's constantly in our minds and what we're constantly focusing on, because, whatever that thing is, our energies will divert to that direction.
Yeah. And it's not, I totally agree with what you just said. And it's not always easy though.
True.
And that's what makes this worth talking about, is because a lot of people might not be doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have tendencies, the human mind is tended towards probably looking towards negative things and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Where we rubberneck on the road, causing traffic, stuff like that. But when you're doing some sort of action sport like mountain biking, let's say, you can't afford to look at that root for too long, that root on the ground. Like, you need to notice that it's there. But if you just keep focusing on that obstacle, you're going to hit it and probably fall over. So I guess the next where this leads is like, how do we not resist? How do we navigate this, like, these distractions where our mind wants to go and like keep ourselves focused? I think with mountain biking, it's easy because part of me is like knows that if I don't stay vigilant and keep looking where I'm going and not get stuck on this one thing, then I'm gonna fall if I get stuck on that one thing, if my mind goes to that. So I have to stay focused. But in daily life, it might not be that straightforward. So
yeah,
what do you think?
yeah. I mean, it's difficult, right? Because we can all get like caught up in our heads, ruminate on certain things. Certain things affect us in certain ways, have an emotional impact on us, and that, you know, shapes the way we're thinking about a certain situation. So I think it's important to know techniques that you can do to interrupt that pattern, right? If you have a pattern, let's say, which I think we all do in different areas, of focusing on the thing you don't necessarily want to focus on, or focusing on the thing that isn't going to get you where you want to go, then techniques for interrupting that pattern will help. But before I get into the techniques, I guess the first step is recognizing the pattern and recognizing that you are actually focusing on this thing, and maybe you don't want to be focusing on that thing, or maybe focusing on that thing isn't the best thing for the path you want to walk. And the recognition is important because we often do it without knowing we're doing it. Like, probably that person learning to race cars doesn't consciously realize, oh, I am focusing on the wall, and that's what's leading me to the wall. That's what's reinforcing my direction into the wall. So having that recognition of your focus is actually controlling your direction is very important. And then recognizing the patterns. I mean, this goes back to what we've talked about before, like listening to yourself and your body and your reactions to things and how you respond. It's important to notice these things about yourself, because to first change it, you have to recognize that it's happening. And we can get more into that possibly. But then if you recognize it and you want to change it, then you want to interrupt the pattern, right? And I think what maybe a lot of people don't realize is that probably the best place to start is physiological, not merely mental. We try to think our way out of a lot of things, and maybe we might not realize how much our body is impacting the way we're thinking. You know, when certain things happen and our emotions race and our heart rate increases and our breathing changes and things like that. Like, yes, there's something mental that's having an impact on your physiology, but also the physiology is a powerful way to control what's happening in the mind as well. So something as simple as changing your breathing pattern can have vast amounts of impact on your heart rate and on the neurochemicals that are released and on how much adrenaline is being released versus other types of hormones and stuff. So, slowing the breath even can help us like control our state. Because I think if you first have to start with your state. What state are you in? Are you in the state where you can have more control over yourself, or are you in a hyperactive fight or flight state? If you're in a fight or flight state, it's hard to say, okay, let me do this instead. Yeah.
Yeah, we lose awareness when we're in those kinds of states.
Absolutely.
And then we have no control. So that was an interesting thing you said about how our bodies affect our thoughts. I feel like a lot of people don't realize this because our modern society is so disconnected from our bodies, but like I've noticed this a lot. I think as people like get more aware, listen to their bodies more, they start to observe their mind more. And then as you observe your mind in different states, like when you're exercising, when you're about to fall asleep, first thing in the morning, like your thought patterns might be similar each morning because of maybe you're just waking up and that's a certain state. Yeah, I mean, I've noticed like the state of my mind after I exercise is completely different from when before I started exercising.
Absolutely.
So like, that plays a huge role. I mean, that kind of gets into the techniques actually.
Yeah.
But I guess knowing this, I mean, firsthand knowing this, I think is going to be, people have to like see to believe it, see them watch their own mind a bit. But yeah, I would think like once you know this, then the technique makes so much sense. Like the technique of like going for a run in the morning or something to like completely calm your mental state will help you to like basically move your thoughts in the direction that you want them to. Yeah, I think the way how you explained it was really good. Like we try to think our way out of things, but like the thing is, we're trying to think our way out of thinking a certain way, which doesn't work. Like you can't think a different way by fighting it with more thoughts.
Right.
Like it's yeah. Part of it comes to like we have to know ourselves well enough to like, and that takes time, takes observing yourself for a while to know, okay, I'm falling into this pattern. I need to do this. I think that takes time for different people, but like, okay, like let's say I'm falling into like, my thoughts are like not very kind right now. My body also might not be feeling that good. So then what do I need to do? Go move my body.
Yeah.
I think that's the solution for so many of our problems actually, is just move your body, touch grass.
Move your body, touch grass.
I really think that's like a huge, that can be like, you just do that one thing. If you're not doing it, that can like revolutionize your thoughts. But
yeah.
Yeah, do we want to say anything else about like, I don't know, because I know you wanted to get into like some techniques, but like what kind of prefaces do we need before we get into like these sorts of things?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's long term and there's short term, right? Do you want to divert your thoughts and interrupt a particular pattern in the moment? That's one, area. And then another area is, do you want to over time focus more and more on one thing more and one thing less? Like, for example, I guess this ties into the art of motivation as well, right? How much am I focused on a particular goal? And do I want to strengthen my focus towards that goal and away from, other things that I'm doing, or away from other things that don't serve me? Am I focused too much on what people think, or am I focused too much on X or Y? Do I want to focus more on exercising every day, or do I want to focus more on a habit of consistency, or things like that? Things that are more general, life changing, rather than in a moment. So I think those are two different avenues we can talk about.
Well, the long term will always inform what you do in the moment.
True.
Because if your long term goal is, I don't know, exercising, then like first thing you do, wake up, you're thinking about that, and then that's what you do in the moment. So yeah, long term, I guess, is an interesting way to think of it. Another thing I wanted to, well, we also mentioned like for the flow triggers, focusing on different things. So that kind of goes back to that as well.
Yeah.
Where like what you focus on can give you energy or take away energy.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, relevant in this conversation again. But yeah, I guess maybe we can start talking about long term and then go into the short term. I guess short term is going to be like each step, but then the long term is like which staircase are you taking? So yeah, what kind of long term goals do you think people should have?
Well, I think probably the long term is made up of short term techniques, because like, let's say I want to create a habit of exercising,
Mm-hmm.
right? Within that is the habit of consistency in general and discipline and things like that. And within that is the importance you give to exercise and the noticing of how exercising versus not exercising affects your life. And as a matter of fact, what I'm saying now is a good way to start focusing on something more. Meaning, okay, let's say I want a habit of exercising. What does that entail? It entails consistency, it entails uh, discipline, what time of day, maybe a different time of day for me is better to exercise for my chronotype. Maybe I'm a night owl, or if you're a morning person or whatever, uh, your energy levels throughout the day are different depending on your chronotype, which is when you sleep or when you're most naturally sleep. So maybe I can look into when would be the best time for me to exercise to make it most likely, and taking into account my schedule as well. And maybe I need to think about, okay, if I'm not motivated enough, I need to raise the importance of this. I need to figure out, how is this going to benefit me? How is this going to, um, how does not doing it affect my life negatively? So both sides, you need to figure out like what you're running away from with exercise as well as what you're running towards with exercise. So doing this thought exercise of defining all these different parameters and how that ties into this habit of exercise is a good way to increase focus on the thing, because you're understanding the thing more and how it fits into your life. So I think that's probably a first step to take.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that makes sense.
It's a little meta.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a good way to like do it. You can break it down by all those different things. For me, like the importance factor, like, is always the determinant thing to whether I actually do this thing. Like, is it important to me? And I think sometimes there's a disconnect between logically, I think this is important to me, but do I actually think this is important to me? I feel like those two things are different. Like, I should do this thing, but I don't. Like, I think that happens a lot of times. So I feel like this exercise of like getting clear on the things you need and how this will benefit me is good. But I think it's also important to actually do the thing and kind of get a feel that way. I think that's more my technique, is just do it, get a feel for it, and don't push yourself too hard. And then slowly that habit can be built. And like, it takes time, honestly, to build these things, especially if it's like an abrupt change. But like, if I take my habit of like biking, for example, I mean, previously I had a habit of lifting weights, and like that was my like priority. And yeah, I guess what made me want to do it is because it gave me the meaning of improvement and like growth. You were talking about growth, in fact, in your flow. Was it the flow triggers, or like, no, in that exercise you did of like human needs? I feel like growth is a big one for me. So for a while, like lifting weights gave me a lot of that like growth need, and I like, that's what made me do it. And now like the same thing is happening with cycling. It's like, I love it. I love so many aspects of it, but then that growth really like also drives me to like continuously like stay consistent. So I feel like part of finding something that you will stay consistent with and like will move towards is like, do I like this thing, and does it feel good to be consistent on this thing, even if like I don't feel like, oh, I don't want to do it today, but like you still do it because that importance is like higher than like how you feel specifically on that that specific day.
So I think there's two things, right? There's how much is it important to you, and if it is important to you and you already feel that, how do I make sure I stay focused on it, basically? Then that just gets into consistency and forming a habit. And then there's the other side of it, where it's, Yeah, logically it's important to me, but emotionally I'm not as connected to its importance. So how do I increase that connection to its importance to me, right? So those will be two different things. Because the most important thing for focus is repetition. Anything you're repeatedly exposed to, you essentially become, right? Uh, and so the habit of consistency will be one of the most important things if you're trying to focus more on a certain thing, or if you're trying to create um, this habit of exercising and working out. And so, kind of what we talked about before was, and you mentioned it just now, don't put too much pressure. If you want to start this new habit, start small, probably, unless you're already like extremely motivated and you just want to jump right into it. But then if you start to get overwhelmed and burn out, then dial it back a little, because it's more important to stay consistent. It's more important to keep the repetition going than doing like a high volume at once, you know?
Yeah, and then quitting.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean this goes back to even like the thing we were talking about. It's like, focusing on your specific goal and like kind of being able to like dial your focus back to where it was if you got distracted. That also takes time. Like training your mind to focus on a specific thing also takes time. So it's like, I think people often like beat themselves up, including myself. It's like, you didn't move the needle today, but it's like, that's fine as long as you don't quit forever.
Right.
You might need a long break, but as long as you eventually keep going, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. And I think it's important, I think the habit of starting the thing is more important than probably anything else, because once you start, starting is always the hardest part, right? And if you're trying to build consistency, then focus on the start. Consistently start. Do it for 1 second, and then that's your check the box, you started today, right? Likely you'll do it for more than a second if it's really important to you and you've already started. But on those days where it's like, oh, I don't want to do this, just like do the 1 second start, check off the box, it's a non-zero day, we're good. I've held the consistency. I think that's a good technique to build a habit of consistency, which you kind of need, if this thing is important and you want to focus on it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like part of it is trusting yourself too. Cause like sometimes you just need the 0 day and that's fine. But don't let the 0 day and turn into a 0 week.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't turn into a 0 week, then you're fine.
And don't let the 0 day turn into guilt. Because guilt is not productive. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't exercise today, I'm such trash or whatever. Like, that's just gonna have a negative feedback loop and you're gonna feel demotivated rather than motivated.
Yeah, it's funny how we do that to ourselves. It's like, you miss one thing and you feel guilty. You also could feel grateful. You're like, finally I get to take a rest for a day and then I can get back on it. And usually when you take a rest, you're more motivated to do it the next day. But yeah, it's funny how we like self-sabotage with like guilt and like focusing on guilt. I think I think that goes back to like the things that you look at, you go towards. So like, I think there are two ways you can deal with the guilt. You can focus on it and let yourself become guilt. What you focus on, you become. Or you can just be like, guilt, that's another obstacle. I don't need to look at it. I mean, I can continue. Maybe I need to like go see some friends or something.
Yeah.
Instead of like seeing like, oh, I am guilty. I feel guilty, so I am guilt.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that guilt is just another passing thought in the thought stream. It doesn't really control me.
Yeah.
I'm feeling guilty, so let me go take a walk with my dog or something,
Yeah.
It's like, you don't see it as you see it as something that arises from certain conditions.
Right.
So you just need to change the environment. Right. You're fine.
Right. And this is why I say the long-term techniques are probably just some of the short-term things, because you'll need this short-term way of pattern interrupting that guilt and refocusing on something else to feed into that longer journey of staying consistent with the other goal, right? And so it's important. You're gonna have to recognize, oh, I'm spiraling into guilt. That's not it. That awareness, having that awareness, is very important, and knowing techniques on how to divert your focus in the short, in this moment, is gonna help you because it's not gonna make you spiral, right? So as you say, go hang out with friends, go do something else that feeds, you, rather than focusing on this other thing that's draining you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if we go back to what you look at, it's not like you're even, I mean, what you're saying is like the smaller steps build the staircase in a way. It's like, you're never really looking that far ahead. I mean, you need to look just enough ahead, but not too far and not too close. Because if you look too far, you miss what's right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look too close, you miss what's right coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also kind of a balance of not only like how you see things, but like, I mean, eventually that dictates where you're going, but I guess it's a balance of where you look and your perspective on things matters too, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I mean, you're never focusing on one thing and only that thing forever. You're gonna have to shift your focus as you move. You shift it far, you shift it near, you kind of like balance it to figure out where is the best place for me to focus in this moment, based on what I'm doing. What should be in my direct focus versus what should be in my peripheral vision. That's how we walk, right? You look far ahead, you might scan, the ground for a sec. If you're gonna step on something, that it's there, you have the awareness. In this race car thing, it's not that you're supposed to look where you're going and you don't even know that there's a wall there. Of course, you know there's the wall there. You see it. But you're focused on this other thing. The wall's in your peripheral vision, perhaps. So it's just about like, you can kind of scan the landscape of focuses, let's say, to be aware of the landscape. And when you're aware of the landscape, you can kind of understand. If you're aware of the landscape and you understand what your needs are now, then that can dictate where you focus, right? If right now I'm just, guilt is my pressing issue, then I can focus, in this, moment on the guilt I'm feeling, or not focus on the guilt I'm feeling, but focus on diverting away from that guilt. You're not necessarily saying, oh no, I need to focus on my long-term 50-year plan right now because I'm feeling guilty.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's a good point. Another thing I wanted to quickly say was like, sometimes you need to focus on the guilt to just acknowledge that it's there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like therapy, right? Like you focus on what's, but the difference the difference is between I'm aware of the guilt versus like believing the guilt.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It's being aware of it, but not believing it. I feel like those are two different things. And like, that's a whole different thing. But yeah, I think on this topic, we can just look at the landscape and go and maneuver it, I guess. Once we know the landscape, we can maneuver it.
Yeah, we should look at the landscape, and I think we should understand it. And then this kind of brings me to, when you see the landscape, how do you interpret the landscape? And what story are you telling yourself about the landscape? Because the story is essentially the set of perspectives and focuses that you find yourself in, that you are engaged in. And that is who you become, right? That dictates how you act, how you react, how you move, and all of that. If I see green and I think it's a tree versus I think it's I don't know, slime. I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
engage with that
Like-
differently, right?
Like if you see a stick on the road or you see a snake,
yeah,
that's
a
going to
better
have
one.
two different reactions. Yeah, this is a super important topic, honestly, because the story is like everything to being human. So yeah, the story is the landscape in many ways, and like the story changes how we interpret the landscape. Like you can go from hating the landscape to loving it just with the story change or that perspective change or that reframe. Yeah, so reframing is a huge tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Reframing is one of the best tools, really, for kind of shifting your focus, both in the short term and the long, and understanding what's going on around you and inside of you, right? So, what was I gonna say? Like, in order to reframe, you do have to be in a state which allows you to reframe. So, again, you have to start with your state, kind of changing your state to a place where you can, I don't know what to call it, but you know, you're not in a heightened emotional state. You're not in this.
You're regulated.
You're regulated.
Yeah, a regulated state.
Right. So, you know, slower breathing and things like that, longer exhales can really help to regulate you. And then you can start to analyze the narrative you're telling and then create a different narrative about what you're experiencing and what this thing is going to do for you. For example, if you're trying to focus on something more, uh, let's say a good example is selling. Uh, let's say you're a new business owner and you kind of need to sell, and you have this narrative that of the snake, the snake oil salesman, and selling is evil and all of that, and you just can't get yourself to do the thing. And I use this example because, like, it's a common example, I think. And you have this story around what selling is, right? It's like you're a sleazeball. Like, these people don't want to be sold to. It's manipulation, all of that. That's not a very motivating story if you want to have a business, right? And so, I mean, that could be coming out of fear of rejection, fear of judgment, these kinds of things. It could be coming from many different places. And first, you have to, like, kind of detangle emotionally from that fear. So, in a moment where you're going to try to reframe, you probably want to regulate yourself first, right? Lower your heart rate with breathing, maybe being a relaxing place, exercise, do some yoga, these kinds of things that help us uh, regulate and have clearer mind and uh, you know, more feel good neurochemicals. Were you gonna say something?
No, I was just gonna say sometimes you just need time.
Yeah.
Time away from the. I mean, it might be a specific situation that you want to reframe. Sometimes you just need time.
Yeah.
To like regulate. Like, it's crazy how time can change how you see something that happened. And I mean, reframing is important too, because like you can reframe past events to actually empower you. Because a lot of people, you know, they think about past events and how they're limited by those things, but actually, yeah. Anyway, it's a very powerful tool, but continue.
Yeah, so when you start to reframe, it's about mapping your own values to the thing. So in analogy with selling, right? I don't value people who deceive other people, perhaps. I don't like that whole snake oil salesman type of person. I don't like people who push their agenda onto others forcefully, these kinds of things. And maybe the selling I want to do is then simply matchmaking, where I truly believe I can offer real value and improve someone's life. And I simply need to find the people whose lives can be improved by the thing I'm offering. And we trade value in that way. It's a symbiotic relationship. And so my selling becomes, I'm trying to understand you and the issues you're facing and see how I can help, right? And if you agree that I can help, then we can enter a symbiotic relationship where we exchange value. And that can be a way more meaningful experience, which can connect me way more to my business. And because I'm reframing how I view selling, right? It's not buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this. Don't focus on this. This is shit, but I'm deceiving you. Buy this, buy this, buy this. It's I want to understand. Let's understand each other. I want to understand your issues. You want to understand how I can help. Let's, create a relationship. And so that's an example of how you can reframe something. It's kind of tying your values into it, and perhaps you want to do it in a way that aligns with your values, right? Yeah.
Yeah, man, the story you tell is everything. Yeah, it's crazy how you can, well, one, how we can kind of have prejudice towards things because of the story we tell about them.
Yep.
But when we say, you know what, no, I want to create my own story about this thing called selling,
Mm-hmm.
you can completely change your perspective on it and change what it is.
Yeah.
I think something that I've been wanting to embody more is the story of like obstacles are actually challenges, like opportunities for growth. Because I think a lot of times people, at their job, they get asked to do something within this tight timeline and they're like, oh fuck, like I'm so stressed now. Like I wish I didn't have to do this. I wish they didn't tell me how to do this. This company sucks, blah, 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 blah. Or you can be like, wow, this is going to be a fun challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there are two ways of seeing quote unquote the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But one person is going to have way more fun trying it out than the other person.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's like, what story is going to help you to like get what you want, but also have fun and enjoy it a lot more?
Yes.
So I think this powerful tool of reframing can help you to actually enjoy pretty much everything more just by changing how you see the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's like what was coming up for me. And like, I think this is like a common practice in Stoicism, the philosophy of Stoicism. But yeah, learning to think like that often can be very beneficial and can like make your life better, and you can grow more as a person.
Yeah.
But yeah, training to think like that takes one step at a time. Like first time I have to be regulated. I have to like think about it and be like, okay, this is like, I'm going to have fun with this. And then slowly, if I keep being consistent with that, like I stay regulated and keep reframing, slowly it will just kind of become more automatic. So yeah, that was just what was coming up for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And this same technique helps with the fear of failure too, because, it's just about seeing the value, seeing how an experience is actually feeding into something valuable for you, right? A failure can be seen as, a devastating end to a goal you had or a dream you had or something like that, or can be seen as simply a lesson which came from experience about how to or not to go about a certain thing. In addition, that experience probably had way more other experiences through which you learned different techniques or different things or whatever. Right? Like let's say you're being taught something, that person is probably going to the teacher is probably going to try to tell you things that could go wrong and all of that. That's one way to learn it. Another way to learn it is through experience. These are just two ways to learn things, right? And framing it in that way about what you're learning is, vastly different from seeing it as an end, seeing failure as a crash, right? It's merely, you know, one of the stairs on the staircase, right? Each experience can be practice for the next experience. Yeah.
Yeah. If we see failure in that way, no longer are we demotivated by failures.
Right.
I mean, we can be demotivated for a time, but it's not nearly going to be as long as we really take it seriously. And we're like, oh, this failure is everything, blah, blah, blah. I mean, like, I crashed on my bike 2 weeks ago, and then today I rode the same trail, and I was like, I mean, as long as the failure, quote unquote, failure doesn't stop you, then you learn something. So I think, I mean, we've been taught in school that failure is bad, and if you fail, you're going to be a hobo and all that. But like, realistically, failure is just trying. And a lot of times failure can be more valuable than success, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of times we see it in such a fixed mindset, but like this failure now can bring you to have an even bigger success later.
Yeah.
Based on what you learned. So yeah, that's another story we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
If we reframe failure, I mean, who knows the amount of value you can get from that? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, manure is used as fertilizer for flowers, right?
Right. Yeah.
You think it's just shit, but it creates like a really beautiful plant. So
yeah. And this quote, I'm going to say it again. I know I've said it to you before. It goes, the master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried. That, to me, I think it's up there. Like, it might be my favorite quote. I think about it all the time. It's been hugely pivotal for me in reframing failure and refocusing on what value I'm getting out of experiences, what value I'm getting out of what would be considered failure. Because to me, I'm on a path to mastery of certain things. And so if I'm on a path to mastery, then I should expect to experience failure way more times than someone who's a beginner has even tried the thing, right? Because what makes a master is trying and trying again. And they just experience over and over and over and over and over again until they've experienced almost all of that thing. They know all the nooks and crannies. They know all the dark corners. They know the failures. They know the successes. They know the techniques. They know the paths. They know the maze, right? And you have to get lost in the maze in order to know the maze.
Yeah, I don't even like the word failure, honestly. I feel like it has a negative connotation, but I like, if you just substitute the word learning experience or the phrase learning experience instead of failure, I feel like that can have a huge just like impact on how you see stuff. I mean, because you have all this experience, you become a master. It's not by succeeding one time. You have zero. It's more about experience than like succeeding and failing. And I think part of the thing is even the story that like there are outcomes. Because a lot of times when someone quote unquote succeeds or fails, that time passes. So it's never really about like the outcome unless you stop. It's more about the journey, I guess. And there can be so many different things that happen along the journey that we might deem as failure, but they're never truly failure if you keep walking the journey. They're just stepping stones, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, part of the journey is to learn to see those things as learning experiences to grow from.
Yeah.
And that can really like help us on our journey, I guess.
Yeah.
And keep the journey going.
Yeah. Yeah. Couple of things interesting tangents I want to take, because you mentioned you don't even like the word failure. It has a negative connotation. So there's two ways of like you can reframe a thing or a concept, right? You can change what the word means to you and how the word feels to you. So I don't necessarily have the same perspective on the word failure because I think I've changed how the word feels to me. So the word failure to me, when I think about it, doesn't actually have a negative connotation. There's also the other way where you can change the words you use. Maybe because you're deeply embedded in a society that has a negative connotation on this word, and when you hear that word, you feel that negative connotation. So you can substitute that word for a different word, which changes the experience for you, right? Which is what you're saying with learning experience. And it's interesting. So I'm from Jamaica, and we have Rasta culture, and Rastas do this, right? It's one of the so Rasta talk is considered like a subset of Patois, which is the language we speak in Jamaica, which is a variant of English. It's like a mix of English and African languages, which is Patois, and then subset of that is Rasta talk, and it's considered like another dialect because by linguists because of how they change intentionally the language uh, based on the connotations of certain words, right? Um, I'm gonna do a plug. There's a good book. I'm gonna link it. I don't remember the name of the thing. It's something about the phonosemantic uh, the phonosemantic phenomenons of Rasta talk or something like that. That's by Dr. Havenal M. Schrenk. I'm gonna link it in the notes, but it talks about how Rastas change their language. So, for example, um, I mean, I've told you about this where you'd say I and I instead of me and you, or even if you're just referring to I, like I am Zale, or I'm gonna do this, you might say I and I go do this or something like that. Um, and there's other words too, like banana, right? The prefix ban has a negative connotation. So you might say I nana instead of banana, right? Or if you're trying to say understand, like under has a negative connotation. Like, why are you under this thing? You should be over it. If you have a grasp on this concept, you overstand. So they actually say overstand instead of understand. So there's a lot of these different things that they change words based on the connotation, and it's ingrained in the whole culture and ideology of the way of life, which is Rasta. And so that's a prime example on how you can change the words you use and reframe certain things to pivot your focus to more positive or more things that align with your particular values.
Yeah, I think this gets into like how language shapes our minds. Like the stories we tell shapes our minds. The stories we tell shapes what we focus on. And yeah, the words we use, the language we use shapes our mind. I mean, like someone who talks in Rasta talk versus someone who talks in, I don't know, Spanish are going to have two different
Like
perceptions.
yeah.
Like even like how they see a banana might be different.
Mm-hmm.
Ainana. But yeah, it's just shows how powerful like these stories and how powerful language is in like framing uh how we see things basically,
mm-hmm.
and like the profound effect that these things can have on our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So basically the takeaway is words, stories, all these things can be tools that you use to shift how you think and how you live and like the quality of your life basically.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Powerful stuff. Language is a powerful thing. Like the language you use, dictates the story you're telling yourself, right? How you think about the things you're saying, how to think about the landscape you're seeing. uh, it's going to dictate how you live, and it's going to dictate where you put your energy. What you're focusing on dictates where you're going. So, yeah, very important to divert that focus to where you want it to be,
Mm-hmm.
and to learn different techniques on how to divert that focus.
Yeah. This makes me think about propaganda actually. and how governments and institutions take advantage of this by telling stories that might not be true
mm-hmm.
to get people to have certain attitudes towards certain people and divide people.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that like in this, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention like that's how powerful this is. Like this can like influence how millions of people see an event.
Absolutely.
And like shapes history and all that sort of stuff. So yeah,
Absolutely.
powerful stuff.
Powerful stuff. And this is why we want to do this podcast, because we want to shift more focus to fulfillment and to the pursuit of fulfillment and creativity and these kinds of things. And that's the mission of this, to repeat more of these things, have more people, divert their attention and put their attention in what would make them fulfilled. And so we hope this podcast can help in diverting focus in that way.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yeah. Do we have some takeaway questions?
Oh yeah, let me think of a question. So 2 questions. As you go about your day and your life after this, maybe ponder these 2 questions. One, a hybrid question. Where are you focused on now, and where do you want to be focused? Right? And then the second question is, how has failure taught you? Yeah.
Yeah. Good questions. I want to add one more question to that, and that's, what story are you telling yourself about the current activity that you're doing right now? Just notice what story you might be telling yourself about it. Stories are powerful, man.
Very powerful. And with that, thank you for listening to this podcast. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and journey. Godspeed.
If you're still here, you're the GOAT. Godspeed.
GOAT.